No, actually, let's do answering questions. Okay, we'll just answer some questions. People have been sending me some of their questions about spirituality, and you all know that from time to time, I will address these questions to the best of my knowledge, my ability, and my experience. Okay, so before we get into it, be sure to get your notebook, get your pad, um, your pen, get your drink, get your snack. I will try to keep today's class as brief as possible so I can go and have fun just like everybody else. Okay. Is it spring yet? No, it's not. It's still winter. Okay, never mind. I forgot about that. Oh my God. All right. So, before we start, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Tochi, aka Mama Dr. Tochi, aka Universal Mama Dr. Tochi, aka Mama of the Men's, and so many other kind of titles that we human beings so love. We love our ego. Mhm. Okay, right. If you need to get hold of me for your divinations, consultations, spiritual practice coaching, your Reiki, please go to my website at tochi.us, tochi.us. I don't do transactions outside of my website. I do not write to people asking them to call me in the comment sections of anywhere. Okay. If anyone is writing you, reaching out to you through the comments section of any of my posts or my videos, and they're asking you to call them, DM them, call them on WhatsApp, um, Telegram, or whatever, send them a message, they're scammers. Okay. There are a lot of scammers. If anyone, okay, I hate to be so absolute, but that's the nature of the beast now. So if anyone is in the comment section writing saying, send me a DM, I saw something, I have a message for you, you're such a nice person, or you have problems, or they're writing anything and they want you to contact them in any way, shape, or form. I repeat, in any way, shape, or form, they're scammers. Real spiritual practitioners do not have the time to be in comment sections asking people to contact them. I repeat, because some of us here are hard headed, okay? And if I catch you in my comment section responding to the scammers, y'all know me, I will call you out. I will call you out. Okay? I don't want to see anyone scammed. I don't want to see anyone losing their money. I don't want someone coming back and saying, "Oh, I can't believe this happened to me." So if I catch you in my comment section, I'm like the professor. Look, if I catch you, okay. So if I catch you writing in the comment section, "Oh yeah, okay, how do I call you?" Oh, thank you so much for the wonderful message. Oh, thank you for agreeing to help me. How do I? If I catch you, I will call you out. As simple as that. Because some of y'all are hard headed. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You will still do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You will still do it. And then you start sharing your information amongst these scammers. One is done with you, they forward their information to the next person, and then you wonder, why is my email full of junk? Why are all these people asking me for money? Why are all these people just coming out of nowhere calling me on the phone? And you wonder. It's because you're hard headed. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. um yeah, so again, go to my website for your spiritual products, courses, books. Okay. Some folks need to start developing multiple streams of income. You're still sitting on the fence, you're still hoping that some miracle is going to happen. Ain't no miracle going to happen. Okay, you have to put boots in the ground. Okay, all your faith and spiritual works are dead without action. You need to take action. There's so many people who are into doing this ritual, this spell, that spell, incantations, invocations, evocations. They're so spiritually active, but they're not getting results. Why? Because they are not doing anything material that provides a channel for which all they're doing can manifest. You can say affirmations all day long, every day, but if you are not creating a channel for that affirmation to come into manifestation, honey child, please, you're not going to get nothing. And I don't care how woo woo you are or how woo woo other people are out there, we're going to keep it real. You need to be practical. You need to have a way for that money you're praying for to get to you. But if you're sitting in your house all day long, you don't go out, it's not like you're working online. It's not like, you're communicating with anyone and you are doing all these things hoping to see money under your bed. You are wasting your time. That's not how real spirituality works. I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it 100. Okay. So, in today's class, let's get to it. I want to keep this class as short as possible because, I got stuff to do. So, I'm going to try my best to keep it short. What do we mean by clean hands? There's sometimes someone was writing in the comment section and saying, what did I mean by clean hands? That one should be operating with clean hands. What does that really mean? Clean hands means that you come innocent of guilt, that you are not the provoker, you are not the oppressor, you are not the wrongdoer. And there's a reason why I'm saying this, okay? This point is important to know because there are people recently they've been doing these back to sender spells. Well, I shouldn't say they've been doing it recently. It's been going on. Um, but let's talk about that and the back to sender spells. People are like, okay, if someone is doing something evil against me, I want to send back to the sender, back to the sender. If you go to charismatic churches, Pentecostal churches, it is a common phrase, back to sender. I want this to go back to sender. In other words, whatever evil is being sent my way, I want that evil to be sent back to the sender. Okay, I want that evil to be sent back to the sender. Okay. And I'm going to talk about back to sender. I'm going to do a member class on back to sender because there's a little bit more to that back to sender. Okay. If your hands are not clean, if you are the offender, if you are the wrongdoer, if you are the one who's causing the drama, the trouble, the whatnot, okay, your back to sender will boomerang on you. Okay, it will boomerang on you. When we talk about clean hands, okay, in law, it's called the mens rea. Okay, you like when they say you're approaching the court mens rea. In other words, you're approaching with clean hands. What does that mean? You are not the guilty party. You are not the person who is falsely accusing someone else. And I see amongst us as people, we don't always understand this concept of clean hands. Let me give an example. Recently, in the Detroit area, was it Detroit area? Yeah, Detroit area. A young man went into, no, it's not Detroit, Houston. Sorry, Houston, Texas. A young man went into an eating establishment. Folks were eating, and he went and started sticking them up, beating them, and collecting their money from them. Okay. and he was pointing a weapon at them. He's beating folks and doing all kinds of things and stripping them and whatnot. And while he was doing all that, one of the patrons in that restaurant who was armed uh, got him on the floor and then proceeded to, uh, give him a few more pieces while he was on the floor. And the young man's thing fell out of his hand, his piece kind of skittered on the floor. And the patron got up and gave him a couple more in the head. Suffice it to say that he quickly became an ancestor from there. Now, people in the community, people in the restaurant were so happy that this guy saved them from this guy who was robbing them. And they found out that after it was all said and done, he was holding a plastic toy in his hand. But it looked very realistic. But be that as it may, he was robbing folks inside while they're eating. No one is expecting that. You're sitting there with your loved ones or your friends, your family, and someone comes in there and starts beating you about the head and terrorizing you, collecting your valuables from you. And this other guy sent him to the other side rather quickly, dispatched him to the other side. Now, check this. One of the community activists in Houston got together with the mother of this perp to start doing a press conference that they wanted the guy who dispatched the young man to the other side, they wanted him to be prosecuted, they wanted him to be criminalized and all that kind of thing. And the mother was there saying he didn't deserve to get shot the way he did. He didn't, that he was already on the ground, that the guy shouldn't have, like, you know, dispatched him with more pieces, especially in the head. And so you're sitting there like me and you're listening to this. And this story is just one of hundreds that have happened like this in the US. It also happens in Canada, where a parent comes out, and I don't care if they're male, female, I don't care their color, it doesn't matter to me what their color is, but your child has been terrorizing the community or other communities for years. And then when someone takes it into their own hands to stop the terror, then you come out and say, oh, he was just a child. He didn't deserve that. He could have been treated more nicely. But you never came out and said all these things when it was your child was terrorizing other folks. So when a person comes with that kind of argument, when they come with that kind of story, that kind of narrative, when they go, they're not coming with clean hands. Their hands are not clean. Because your child was not a nice person, putting it mildly. And so you can't come out and say, oh well, pity me and pity my child. Your child is not innocent. A person with clean hands is a person who is innocent. Innocent. And you come pleading for justice for someone who started the fight but could have finished the fight. Oh, the person had a mental challenge. The person had a this challenge, that challenge. But you allowed this person to operate unhindered in the community, putting other people at peril, inconveniencing them, even doing more than inconvenience, maybe even dispatching other people to the other side before their time. And then you come to the court of public opinion with dirty hands. Imagine that somebody like that goes and says, well, I'm going to do a back to sender ritual. What do you think is going to happen? Imagine a person like this whose child for several years had been terrorizing other people, harassing other people, making other people's lives miserable. Then someone else took care of that child. And then the mother or father, or whoever, relative of this person, that child, and I call them a child, even though a lot of them are not children, like the one we're talking about was already in his 30s. Okay. So then you decide to take it upon yourself. Let's say it's you. You always love your child, regardless of what your child is out there doing. And something drastic happens to your child, and you go home and start saying, I want to do a back to sender ritual. I want to light a back to sender candle. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? Let's see what you have to say. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to boomerang. You're right. It's going to boomerang. It's going to be like shoo, shoo, because you are the sender. What you think is evil being sent your way is merely a reaction to the evil you sent out first. And there's a very big spiritual principle involved in this if you pay attention. You sent out the evil, you allowed the evil, there was a reaction to that evil. Remember, that's a spiritual principle. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So there's a reaction to the evil that you sent out. And then you are sitting here saying, I want to send it back. Comes back to you. Because you're basically saying, oh, there's this evil being sent my way. There's this reaction being sent to me. I want to send this reaction back to the original sender of this reaction. So it comes to you, you set up your spell, your ritual, your whatever back to sender. And so because you're the original sender, this is what happens. Boom, boom, boom. And this is why some people their back to sender doesn't work. Or their situation becomes worse after they start doing back to sender spells, rituals, and things of that nature. Then they're like, oh, but I'm the victim. I'm the victim. No, you're not. You're the perp. You're not the victim. You're the perp. You're the perpetrator. And that's why your back to sender is hitting you back because you have not approached the situation with clean hands. You were there for so long, allowing your child, allowing your sibling, allow your spouse, your significant other to be wreaking havoc on other folks. And then when that person got checkmated, you were like, no, I'm going to do a ritual back to sender to pay that person back for inflicting harm on me. Where were you when your person was out there inflicting on other folks? Where were you? What were you doing? Oh, well, I didn't support what they were doing. I told them what they were doing was not okay, and they kept on doing it. How did you disassociate yourself from that wrongdoing? How? Did you send that person out of your house? Did you disown them? Did you stop talking to them? Oh, well, but it's my child. I can't let my child go. That's my sibling. We're family. Blood is thicker than water. Okay, then you got to take the consequences. Then you got to take the consequences of not owning up and saying, look, I am not part of what you are doing. That is why in other countries where the tradition still exists, that is why you have some communities. And I'm not talking about cities, okay? I'm talking about rural communities where people still, connect with each other and deal with each other. That's why back in the day, they used to have a public denouncement. If a member of that community was out there rampaging and inflicting on other people, members of that person's family will come out publicly and denounce the person. Their community will come out and denounce them. Why? Because they wanted to cut all psychic soul ties with the person so that whatever that person was doing would be on that person's head alone, and they would not be partakers of that person's foolishness. And so, even if that person turned around and said, okay, I went to rob somebody, but I got shot while I was robbing the person, I want to do a back to sender, everything crashes on their own head. And the members of that person's family or community are not affected because they have publicly come out and denounced. And when they publicly come out and denounce, what that means is they have made a decree to their spiritual crews. We have nothing to do with this person. And remember that what you decree, what you say is law. That is why these communities used to do these things. They would have public events where they come out and publicly denounce somebody or denounce a family if it was a whole family that was involved in that foolishness. They would come out and denounce and say, we, the community, are stating right now in front of God, in front of the sun, under the sun, and as we stand with our feet on the ground, we're saying we're not part and we want nothing to do with this person or this family. They refuse to go the right way. They refuse to obey common decency. They don't want to. They're behaving like animals at this point. We have nothing to do with them. So that whatever happens to them, their lineage, their family, everybody, and not us. And the spiritual cruise of everybody present takes note and puts it into effect as a decree. In some communities, they would have their head priest or shaman or spiritual practitioner lead them through this ceremony or through this ritual because it's a ritual. The mere fact that everybody came out under the hot sun and said, look, we want to make it known to all and sundry that we have nothing to do with this person, nothing, we don't support what this person is doing, we don't support them in any way, we've tried our best to work with this person or this family, and they persist in their wickedness. So we want to say we have nothing to do with this. So if anything is happening to them or happening to this person, we will not be partakers of it. Their hands are now clean. Having dirty hands, so to speak, spiritually speaking, morally speaking, can hinder your spiritual work. Can hinder your spiritual work. There are a lot of people who think that, oh, but my case is different. They did this to me and I responded and I did this back to them and they did this to me and did this and the other. Look, understand what I'm saying. If somebody comes to do you and you choose to do them back, I'm not saying that is wrong, but you cannot come forward and say, my hands are clean. I repeat, if somebody did you and you did them back, your hands are not clean. And that's okay because there's some folks that do and they need to be did back because that's the only language they understand. Just like, the story I was telling about what happened in Houston recently. That kind of person up in there, like, you know, inflicting on people who are eating in a restaurant, if the guy didn't stop him with some peace, he would have continued. He probably would have said, okay, yeah, this is a great way of making money. I can go to other restaurants and run up in there and do that. And people are going to stand to the side and they're going to be crying and sniveling and handing over their money. So sometimes when people do, you need to do back. They need to get did so they can stop their foolishness. But just understand that when you do back, you cannot turn around and say, my hands are clean. And sometimes you don't want your hands to be clean. You just want to stop the tomfoolery. Sometimes you just want to stop the tomfoolery. You just want to stop it. Look, I don't have time for any of this. Stop it. You don't have time to sit down and start saying, oh Lord, I know you said vengeance is yours. So I'm going to wait till whenever you get to it. Do you understand? But again, when we do redo, we can't say that our hands are clean. There are sometimes, people come to me and say, hey, I'm fighting with my baby daddy and his new, person, and she did this to me. I know she doing witchcraft to me, and I did this and did this and this. And I say, okay, so your hands are not clean. They're like, no, my hands are clean. They started it first. Okay. So you feel they did you something, they put a spell on you, and you turned around and put a spell on them, and it just turns out that your spell was not as powerful as their spell, and now you're seeking help and saying, I'm innocent. No, you're not. They did a spell on you. You did a spell on them. It just happens that your spell is not as strong as their spell. Your spell was a weak spell. And you would not be here having this conversation with me had your spell been strong enough to deal with them. Okay. When, someone might say, okay, so do we do or do we not do? You got to make that decision as to whether you need to do or not do. And the reason why we have law enforcement is because oftentimes we need to do when we have been done. That's why we have law enforcement. Simple, plain and simple. You know, we that's the point. The basic premise of law enforcement, to do when people are out there doing. Okay. When you react in response to an action, there's a different kind of conversation that happens with your spiritual crew. Okay. And so, if there's blame to be apportioned, your spiritual crew, your guardian spirit cannot come out and say, well, my party here is totally innocent. They didn't do a damn thing in retaliation. It's a different kind of argument that happens. But there are situations when your guardian spirit will stand up for you, especially when you are helpless, when you are oppressed, when you are a child, when you are a widow, a widower, when you're down and out. and you don't even have the power to do. And I encourage you to go watch my videos on, getting back at people who have oppressed you. I believe I have a video on a ritual for dealing with the pharaoh that is over your head. If you haven't seen that video, I do encourage you to go to my channel and watch that video. A ritual for dealing with the pharaoh that is, anybody who has declared themselves a pharaoh over your head. You can go there and, okay, there's another one for oppression, um, and things of that nature. Go to my channel and search inside my channel for, pharaoh over your head. Okay. And you will see in those classes, you'll hear me talk about clean hands, clean hands, clean hands, clean hands. There are certain rituals that you can only do successfully coming with clean hands. If your hands are not clean, no matter how justified you are, they're not going to work. That's just the nature of the beast. And then you have to go and find other rituals that are more appropriate. If you have been in the tit for tat, they did me, I did them, they did me, I did them, they did me, I did them. You have to go and look for some other rituals or other spells that are more better applicable or more appropriate for your situation. When you move with clean hands, when you're not out there provoking, when you're not the instigator, okay, there are certain arguments, there's a certain kind of advocacy your guardian spirit can make for you in places where you are not present. There's a certain kind of advocacy your guardian spirit can make for you where you are not present. You cannot be everywhere to defend yourself. You cannot be everywhere to defend yourself. And sometimes you have to depend on your spiritual crew to advocate for you and defend you in your absence. And that work happens powerfully when you show up with clean hands. That kind of work is powerful when your hands are clean. But I say this again, I recognize that there are times when it's just not possible for you not to do when you have been did. And doing back is the appropriate response to having been did. Understand? All right, so let's end today's class here. Trying to make sure that our classes are short and digestible. Okay, so if you've learned something from today's class, let's have your eye in the comment section. Let's see your eyes. Let's have your eye. And then what I'm going to do is we'll have our member live stream a little bit more on the back to sender concept. Okay. And then have a little bit more on that for the thing. The back to sender. So okay. And then in our next live stream, I'm going to tackle some of the questions that have been brought up for us to deal with. Attention. All right. All right. I'll be interested in knowing your thoughts in the comments section. Remember to keep it respectful. Okay. Remember to keep comments respectful. Yeah, we can share opinions as long as they're respectful. We're not out there, cursing other people. Okay. Understand that when I do illustrations, I don't care about color and gender and stuff. We are interested in the spiritual principle of what we're talking about. We're interested in the spiritual principles. Okay? That's what we discuss here. Practical spirituality. We deal with the principles. So I'm not here to discuss whether it's a person of color being attacked or a person of color that is attacking, or if it's male, female. That's not what we're talking about here. We're dealing with the principle. What is the principle here? What is the principle of clean hands? What is the principle? How does back to sender work? And many of us need to learn that the way of human beings is not the way of spirit. We can have all our own ideas about how we think things ought to work. We have our ideas, we have our feelings, we have our opinions and beliefs about how things ought to work. Just like when I gave the example, the mother coming out with the activist and saying, well, he didn't deserve that. And the activist saying, he didn't deserve that. Like when he gave him one, first, second, third piece, he should have left him alone. He shouldn't have gone there and finished him off. And I can see someone saying, well, maybe it was a little excessive. And then someone else on the other side saying, well, but you got to understand that emotions are high when all these things are going on. People are scared, they're afraid. The guy who was discharging was like, look, I need to put a stop to you once and for all. This needs to end forever. So there's a whole bunch of emotions and thoughts and things going on. We're not discussing that. We're discussing the concept of clean hands. That's what we're discussing. So we have to learn how to focus on what we need to focus on. Clean hands. If I'm doing something to you, especially unprovoked, I'm out there enforcing my own interest upon you, and you react and you overcome me. You reacted to what I did. You're out there minding your business, and I do something to you, and you react and overpower me. Okay, am I justified in coming out and doing a back to sender spell, back to sender ritual? What spiritual right do I have to believe that the back to sender is going to work for me? What spiritual authority do I have to do a back to sender and expect it to work, seeing that I am the one who initiated the drama? So that's what we're talking about, okay? So that we don't get off track, because I know people start getting all hot and bothered. All right, we're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirit, our ancestors, our spirit guides, and all those in the unseen realms who help us to focus and understand spiritual principle so that we can guard and guide our lives accordingly. Ashe. Ise, Kamadu, Tukoza, Lasedi, Mokwande, Ayibobo, Nakwat, Somotobi is done, is finished, is complete. Amen. Amen. Thank you for coming to class. I'm going to run outside and have fun while it's still sunny. Love you all.